Hey Gwenevere, how are you today?
I'm great. How about you?
Perfect, thank you. I'm really, really good. Okay, the first question that I always ask everybody is, how do you like your coffee in the morning?
Oh my goodness, I'm probably one of your guests that don't drink coffee. I'm more of a tea girl, but only during the winter. So I have my tea with some sugar and depending on the tea, sometimes flavored cream, but otherwise just pure tea.
Oh, I was going to ask you though, what kind of tea?
Well, I'm a big chai fan, and
Oh,
during the fall season, I love the pumpkin chai. During non-fall season, I love vanilla chai or just plain chai, spicy chai. I don't know, any kind of chai. I will for it. I love it. I'm addicted. I'm sure there's some kind of like natural addictive thing in there that just keeps me coming back for more.
hey, you're talking to a British person here right now, so it is like we understand you. I know we drink it like a red tea, black tea as our like main go-to, but chai, it's nice, it's wonderful, it's flavorsome. We get it, we understand it.
Yep, it's my favorite.
Okay, so tell me, what is it that you do and why do you do it?
Well, I am in the human resources space, so I oversee human resources globally for Lilt as a VP of Global People Operations, but also own my own HR consultancy firm called Guide to HR. And we're an interim, fractional, and project based firm. I have a partner that helps me run it, so we are able to support businesses from startup size of 2 employees all the way up to high growth mid-sized companies, 3 to 5,000 employees, and we offer services in all the different levels of HR. So from coordinator, generalist, manager, director, all the way up to executive level. So why I do it, I don't know. I love it. I love coming in and supporting businesses from a people operations perspective and helping them make good decisions that will help them grow their business and be successful while building a culture where employees are thriving and loving what they do.
And I'm curious, so I've never been in the corporate world or, the real big businesses. I've always been in the SMB and the startup world, which is a whole ball game in itself.
Very
What
true.
is what is the biggest difference when it comes to HR from I'm just going to say larger organizations compared to maybe a business size between like 10 and 50, for example?
I think it's just like, this answer actually fits with any department inside of a large organization. It's just that there's a lot of structure, could be a lot of red tape, bureaucracy. There could just be a lot of do your job. You're in this one area of your job and your role, and that's what you're here to do. Versus in the smaller businesses, there's a lot more agility. There's a lot more, I can do multiple things. I can be the benefits person today and the HR coach tomorrow, and I can help support terminations and onboarding, recruiting, and there's just so much that happens inside of the HR space. And in a smaller business capacity, you get to touch it all typically, and you also get to make decisions that help really build that foundation and structure without it becoming red tape, being agile and constantly being able to shift and bend as the business needs. Of course, there are some legalities that you have to not bend to, but for the most part, whether you put in a OKR platform system or you still use Excel spreadsheets, that is completely up to you and the business needs. That's one simple example.
And we're using that as an example, you've got a high level of structure on one end of it, maybe some extra red tape compared to, from the sounds of it, the SMB world is I don't want to say chaos because it isn't, but it could be perceived as chaos when everybody has a very mixed roles and responsibilities, and also then you're having to flex with that. As you just said, you might be only do one thing for the bigger, larger organizations, but in this SMB world, you have to wear multiple hats, and I think that's a common theme that everybody recognizes. So then, when we come to these different style teams, and I'll allow you to pick how you want to analyze this, how do you identify the gaps within the team?
I think the first thing that I always tell executives to do is don't look at your current team. Look at the business needs. What are your business needs and what are the skill sets that you need in order to fulfill those needs? That kind of creates your org chart in an example, right? Or maybe your roles or your leveling or whatever it is, however you kind of compile that information. From there, you can go, okay, I have Bobby, Stacy, Nancy, and John. What are their skill sets and where do they fit in this structure? And then okay, well, John kind of fits into this role, but he's missing these two things. Great. Let's educate him. Let's get him up to speed, get him whatever he needs to be able to have those two things. And then the other people fit in or they don't, right? So it's a matter of knowing what your business needs are and what that means in regards to the roles and the skills, and then putting the people in. A lot of times I have these 4 people, I need to figure out how they fit. Like I need to plug them in and make them work for me. And it's really a hard task when you've grown your business on the backs, the blood, sweat, tears of those people. But eventually there comes a time when maybe those people are not going to be the ones that help you get to the next level. And when you come to a small business, when you're really a startup, which is where I kind of live in this world of startup landscape, I kind of look at it as it's like a human being. You're a baby pre-seed, right? And you grow up and maybe you go to elementary school and you're Series A, and you're high school, you're Series B, or maybe C, something like that. And at some point in time, it's now time to go to college. And like everybody in the world, or I guess maybe in the US, I should not go out to the world, but in the US, not everyone goes to college. And that is okay. We don't want everyone going to college. We need the tradesmen, right? Like, what would we do without a society of like people who can't build and put roads together and orchestrate, all of the infrastructure of our communities? We would be lost without them. So it's not a bad thing. It's just that they don't go to college. And so it's the same thing when you're in that Series C, sometimes D, but I usually see it around the C timeframe. You're going to college and you're going to leave some of your friends behind. And you got to thank them and appreciate them and help them be able to move on to the next place, but they're not the right one for you now and what your business needs to be able to grow and succeed and move into Series D or be bought out or go publicly traded, whatever your goal is.
And that sounds like a really difficult conversation to have.
For sure. Especially if some of these individuals have been with you from the very get-go or pretty close to the very get-go, you probably become very friendly. Sometimes I've seen CEOs and founders who they typically bring on friends and family, initially to build their business out. And then for those like first few new hires, they're probably referrals from those friends and families. They're connected to you in your social life somehow, some way. I think that what's really important is to help them understand what you need and where they are missing the skills that you need to move to the next level. And if you can have that open, honest, transparent conversation, most of the time people are recognizing that they don't have that skill set. Now, sometimes they'll be like, but I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to get that, give me the opportunity to be able to do it. What I've seen is that if you can have a conversation of like, I would love to give you that opportunity. I unfortunately don't have the time capacity for my business to be able to let you learn and grow on the job. I need someone to come in and actually know and have done it before and can do it again and have a playbook already kind of in play. So that's where I think it is challenging. Being respectful of that person and treating like a human being is the key, right? Empathetic to them. And also too, how can you help them? Do you know other founders out there? A lot of these founders are also VC backed. Is there something that you could do from the VC world that might give them an opportunity to go to a new opportunity that they can grow and learn? Is there a chance you could keep them on, but you're just leveling them, right? So maybe you're bringing on that experienced person that they're now going to report to them instead of you, and give them the opportunity to grow and learn from that person. Maybe there are some times when, you have the right money and you need that double role filled. So I think if you can bring the people along with you on why you're making the decisions and how you can help them grow and go to another opportunity that's going to help them become better, it helps with that conversation. It's still not easy, for sure.
No, and I liked what you just said there. You started with the why of just being like, this is where the business needs to go. These are the things we need to do in order to do that. And I typically work in 90 days or 180 days. and like you said, you've given them a platform. You have to allow them to give them a platform to say, hey, do you want to go on this path, kind of thing? Do you actually want to come on this journey? And like you just said, some people will go, yes, I want to learn these skills, yes, I want to do these things. And actually sometimes, I know I've seen from experience, some people will go, I don't actually want to do that.
Yep.
You know, like you said, it's treating them like a human, and it gives them, and if they say, I don't want to do that, it's like, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you've got VC friends, or that's a good question. If you've not got like connections to other businesses that they could go to, or you've not got connections to other places that they could be better suited, you know, in working in employment, do you? I don't expect really an answer to this one, but do you have any top tips to be like, hey, what other things can you do to help them get new work? Essentially?
I mean, there's always outplacement services that the company could pay for, or, you know, maybe get a discount agreement with. I would say though, from my experience, if you're a startup founder, CEO, you have connections, because you haven't gotten your business to where it is today without that. So it's just a matter of figuring out if you want to use those connections in that capacity or not, right? And so then it's where maybe it's you lean on some of your HR connections and say, hey, can you get this resume spread, you know, out through the HR network? That's a really easy one. So I think going back to what you're saying too, knowing the person and knowing what they want and where they want to go with their life and their career can also help you determine how you phrase things and how you present this change to them. I've had conversations with CEOs where, like, no, I personally don't want to be a head of HR for a business of 10,000 employees. No, thank you. That's just not me. I don't want that. So, you know, if I'm helping a business grow and becoming large, there's a point in time where I'm going to parachute myself out of the airplane, because it's not what I want. And so there is a good opportunity to understand what people really want and where they want to go in their career.
I like that. So now let's put it onto the reverse. So they've decided to leave. They found a great place, new place to go, and you're now looking at, like I said, you're taking the business to the next level. How do you make your business a destination for people to come?
It's about culture, and I feel like that's so overused, but I would say really having a clear documented place that people know what it is you're creating or have created in regards to, it's like your unwritten rules of what you can expect when you walk through the door, right? Like when I walk through the hospital doors, I know what I'm going to expect versus when I walk through a clothing store, right? It's like two separate very things. Your mind already kind of knows what you're going to get when you walk through those doors. It's the same concept in your work environment. You want to know, is this a place where we thrive on competition? And it's like, maybe it's kind of like eat or be eaten, right? Or do we thrive on collaboration? We thrive on, oh my gosh, sorry, you're gonna have to cut this out. What's the word I'm looking for? Not calibration, collaboration. We thrive on I'm still gonna say it wrong. Wow, my brain is like, collaboration. We thrive on collaboration and we work as a team. Those are two very different orgs, and people thrive in either one of them. A lot of times when I'm trying to find people to come into a startup, my question is, do you like to go fast? Or are you looking for a place where you can kind of get your job, you know, put your head down, get your job done and clock out and go home to your family? Like what kind of environment do you want to work in? And being able to clearly identify that and communicate that to people, you're gonna set expectations that are accurate, that will allow people to know what they're going to get into when they come through the door. And having a clear picture will allow that person to be ready to engage and stay in that environment a lot better than, well, I thought I was walking into and going and shopping and getting a shirt, but now I'm walking into a hospital and it smells, you know, the hospital smell, right? And it's all white and very like cold. Like it's just a completely different experience. So I think that's one thing that's really important, to make sure that you have that fully vetted and people have bought into it. Most people who start working at a startup or small business, it's because they're getting behind the CEO, the founders, and the culture that they're creating. The second piece would be really to help spread that culture outwardly, and but not in a way where it's like showy. So it's kind of a fine line, but like just sharing here and there things that are happening in the org. Maybe it's a picture of your group having dinner or going bowling, or I don't know, doing volunteer work together, right? Whatever it is that floats your boat. One company, I did this whole wellness situation. It was right after COVID, and we did this wellness challenge. The employees really wanted to give back to the community because the environment of this particular employer was that they were thriving during COVID, and the employees had a little bit of guilt because of that, and so they wanted to give back to the community. Okay, great, let's do that. How can we give back to the community? Oh, let's do a fundraising, but let's actually double down on this. You guys are also sitting at your computer all day long. Let's get you moving because you need to move for your own mental and physical health. So we put a moving challenge in place where every mile the employees walked, we would donate, I can't remember what it was, maybe it was $1, maybe it was 10, but we X amount of money for every mile you walked. And then we put a challenge on it that anyone who had 100 miles in the month would get into a raffle to win $500. And then we tripled down on that, and we said, hey, we're going to celebrate that you moved this month socially. And so we actually did a lot of awards that were external on LinkedIn socially, announcing and celebrating people who were moving, and that they just got, I think it was something like, I want to say it was like 50 pairs of shoes. We did Souls for Souls International. So every mile you walked, you got a half a pair of shoes. So that's awesome. So 100 miles gave you 50 shoes. So we celebrated that this person just was able to donate 50 pairs of shoes. And like 2 months later, I started interviewing people where, how'd you hear about us? Why would you want to join? Oh my gosh, I saw that walking challenge and the charity attached to it. That's an environment I want to be a part of. This is amazing. And our uptake of people who were interested in joining the company it was phenomenal. I didn't expect such an experience coming from that when we were just trying to celebrate our employees and what they were doing for the community.
I love that as a story, and I want to unpack it as well. Because,
yeah, sure. There was a lot there.
Because in the story, you've gamified,
Yep.
people engagement. And my background's marketing and sales. You typically always do that with the sales team because they love gamified. They love competition. They love leaderboards. It's that personality.
Yep.
But it's nice to hear it from more of a wholesome, I'm going to say wholesome perspective here, and department wise, because but one of the things I am more interested in now is what you said originally was culture gets thrown around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they've proved to themselves that they're doing what they're saying that they're what they're doing. They're doing what they're saying they're doing. They're saying, as a culture, as a company, these are the things that we want to do. These are the things that we want to energize our team of people. How do you make sure that you're not just saying what you're saying, you're actually doing what you're saying?
I think celebrations and acknowledgements are a really great way. People need to see what good looks like. So when you're celebrating, and it internally is fine. If you want to take it external, that's fine too, whatever is the right fit for you. It's really taking the moment to say, hey, look at this person, look at this team, look at this department and what they've accomplished. And they did this by living our values of XYZ. And so it's really just about a way to celebrate and acknowledging the people who are doing it, and then using that as a way for others to say, this is what good looks like. This is what we want people to be doing. And, I've seen it where it's a quarterly award. I've seen it where it's an annual award where employees nominate to the executive team and the executive team picks it. I've seen executive teams nominate and an employee ambassador group votes and picks the winners. I've seen where there's been times where you let an employee-led award happen where, the employees are basically nominating each other and the person who wins and nominates the next person and so forth and so on. But just kind of having that be a way where it doesn't have to be money too. Like the employee one could be just acknowledgement on your all hands. It could be a small amount. It could be if you have options, maybe it's your share options amount. Maybe it's a gift card. So it doesn't have to be some huge amount. I've heard one story where they only did one award annual, and it was a huge amount. And I'm like, wow, that must be like everyone's fighting over each other. But according to what I've heard is no, they don't. They actually really celebrate and know that person who got that award really, really, really deserved getting it, and was celebrating them and acknowledging them. So it's really what fits your culture, who you are. For Guide to HR, one of the things I do is one of my values is do what you love. And I make sure that everyone that works with me is on a project that they love. I'm not going to assign something to someone that they've told me, oh, no, I don't like doing that. Like I have one person, she does not enjoy payroll or benefits. Okay, fine. You'll never work on those ever again. And but she loves handbooks and policies. Great. Awesome. I don't. I'm going to give those to her. Right. So it's like, that's the culture I create, is everyone that works with me knows they're going to do what they love, and they're not going to ever have to touch the things they don't. And I think it's important to just live that, to embody that, and to, again, award the people who show up that way and celebrate them.
I think you just nailed it just there. That's what it is. If you're going to outline and say these are the things that you're going to do as a company, it's being disciplined enough to be and stick with it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you're going to say, so I'll give you my example with my team. If we're going to go out for company drinks every other Thursday, so every 2 weeks we go to company drinks on a Thursday where we spend an hour, and it's not even like the drinks itself, it's sitting around a table and just hanging out. It's blocking out that time and prioritizing that time so that nothing ever gets in the way of that time.
Yeah.
Giving it that environment and sticking with it. And I can safely say we stuck with it for we stuck for it for a very, very long time before we changed the organization. But we have different things now. So that's another point, is that really it's what worked for us then. Worked for us for 4 years. It worked beautifully post-COVID. In the last year, it doesn't work for us, but we have a whole ton of other perks and other things that we do instead. What do people get wrong about it?
I think they communicate it once and expect everyone to know it, and then it just goes off into this dark hole that no one ever looks at again. There's a study done, and I don't remember the quote, and it's been quite some time since I've seen it, and it still shocks me when I say it every time, that it takes an average person 7 times to hear something to fully get it, fully like know it. I don't know, to me it's like by the 3rd time I'm ready to slap you silly, but everyone's different, right? So remembering that you just need to constantly put it in front of people. And remembering your audience too. You have employees who are coming and going constantly in your org. I mean, obviously if you're a smaller one, maybe not so much, but certainly as you get bigger and you have turnover and you have new hires, you have net new positions you're filling, you have people who are constantly joining your team. So that is going to be their first time on an all hands, might be the 100th time for someone else. But it's important to keep reminding people of what it is who you are and why everyone's here and how you expect everyone to behave, the culture that you're building, that you have built. And sometimes it can get a little monotonous, so change it up. Like there's one org I'm working with right now where we're reevaluating how we do it. And now we're saying the CEO is going to present a story of someone or some team and highlighting a value instead of just like someone just reading off the values, right? So change it up and make it fun and use it as a celebration. Again, just putting it in front of people. I've seen it where it's been put on walls in the office. And I think the other way that people get it wrong is that when you have leaders, and I'll say leaders, it doesn't necessarily mean managing of people. A leader could be an individual contributor, but leaders, individual contributors, managing of people, your executive senior team, who don't and really live those values, who actually are complete opposite of those values, and you allow that to continue and you don't address it and or say, look, you're not a good fit, you need to go, then that's where the culture will break down, because people see these leaders not living those values. Well, if they're not living them, then why do I have to live them? Actually, I agree with that leader that value is stupid and I actually need to do the opposite. It then creates this very toxic environment, and very like employees just don't know, like just don't understand. Now it just feels like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth.
So talking about
yeah,
talking about these toxic people, because I know from watching my own clients, I know from my own experience, just when you're in it, it's almost like sometimes it feels like the frog in the boiling pot. You don't necessarily know that that you've got these toxic employees. And I don't want to say toxic as in like, I want to emphasize, I don't mean toxic in bad people. I just mean
it's the wrong person in the current environment. A toxic person could be really great in a different environment. Correct. But in your environment, what you're trying to create. So for example, I'll go back to the very two extremes, right? Collaborative environment versus everyone for themselves, I'm going to eat you or be eaten environment. Well, everyone for themselves, I'm going to eat you environment coming into a collaborative one is going to create a very toxic culture, because you've created a culture where you want people to collaborate. It's all about the team. It's we win together, right? We work and win together kind of situation. Well, if you have someone coming in and saying it's all about me, and it's I, and I'm gonna like step all over you people, that creates a toxic environment. Flip that around. If they go into a cell like an org that is that, they're gonna thrive, and they're not gonna be toxic in that environment. So it's not really like the person as an individual is toxic, it's that they're toxic to the culture environment you've created, and they're not a good fit because of that. Now, they might be the best subject matter expert and have really amazing ideas and are able to make that department or team or role really flourish, but the damage that they're doing to the rest of your organization outweighs what they are accomplishing as an individual.
And you already pointed out like how they're doing the damage there. You've got a vision and you've got a goal, and you're trying to reiterate all the time the vision, the goal, the culture, the standards of which we are here to stay. And if you want to know it's the 7 to 10 rule, by the way. It's a marketing rule. It's the one I live and breathe by. In order we want any person to buy or purchase from you and really understand what the offer or the product is, you've got to hit them 7 to 10 times. And I like that you've paralleled this with actually working and managing with people. But like I said, it's sometimes hard. You kind of know that stuff's not quite right, but what are the symptoms, or what the frameworks can you use to confirm to yourself, right, no, they are actually just the wrong person, they're in the wrong seat and in the wrong organization? How do you even go about confirming that to yourself, that you've identified this?
There's a lot of different ways, and it really depends on what you have already in your org and how big your org is. If you're a small org, you may not have a lot of, system, tools, infrastructure in place. I'd recommend doing some, interviews with people, and whether that's you, the CEO founder, or an HR person, or another leader, have a conversation with the people who report to that person. If they're a person that has direct reports, have conversations and talk to people who are interacting and engaging with the individual. A lot of times it's really good to have a 30, 60, 90-day check-in. Now that seems extreme. Then just have a 60 and maybe 120-day check-in, right? See how are they coming on? Are they able to interact and engage the way that you've created your culture? What areas can they start improving upon? Like what can they stop, and continue doing, right? Do that kind of exercise. And put it in a framework where it's about how can this person continue to grow and get onboarded and help the team however they need to be. Don't put it in a framework where you're asking, should I fire this person, right? It's important to not put the onus on the person you're having a conversation with. Don't make them feel like they're in the seat of ejecting this person or not, because 10 out of 10 times they're going to lie to you and say, oh yeah, it's fine, because no one wants to be responsible for having someone else lose their job. So put it in a framework that allows them to say, oh yeah, they're doing really good here, and here are some things that I think that they could start improving upon, or here's some things that they can start working on in the next, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it might be. And, hopefully you have built the rapport with the individuals you're talking with, because again, we're talking a small environment. Most of the time, the CEO knows everybody up to 150, 200, maybe even more employees. And so having that relationship and that trustworthiness to have people tell you the truth is important. If you don't feel you have that, then lean on the people that are around you that do, that then can come back and tell you what they're hearing. If you're a bigger organization that might have some function, some system tools in place, your engagement scores can tell you a lot. So if you're having some kind of semi-annual engagement score, then hearing from the employees and seeing, oh, okay, overall our score as a company is X. Here are all the different department ones. Oh, I'm seeing that this department is significant. It's probably the bottom department. What's going on? Let's dive into that. Figure out what's going on. Have conversations with people. You might be able to find it that way. And, just I think having a very open door policy, transparency as best as a business can will allow for you to hear things. If you're a big org, you might have an employee ambassador group where you can lean on and say, hey guys, how's it going? What are you guys hearing? What should we as the leaders know? What's going on? And then the other group you could also engage with is your management team, which is basically people that are managing others but aren't your executive, aren't your top leaders. So what's going on in that group? What are they hearing? What are they seeing? And empowering them to share with you without you coming to them, so that you're actually creating an environment that is proactive instead of reactive. I think the thing I see the most that happens is that if something is brought to leadership attention and they don't do anything with it, it is thereby showing that you accept that behavior of that individual. And that's the environment you're okay with creating in your culture today. That's where you start seeing the breakdown happen. The trust start to rescind and break down. And people start going, this isn't the company I used to work for. I'm going to start bailing. Turnover, that's another, what's your retention turnover rate? Why are people leaving? It's not always about money. And sometimes it's more often than not about their manager. What's going on? Is one manager getting more turnover than others? So that's another red flag. So there's a lot of different ways depending on how the organization is structured.
It's funny that you mentioned about the turnover, because I saw a stat the other day where I think the average for Amazon, Apple, and Facebook, they're about 1.3 years, a little over a year, let's just say, as an average between them. And it was a comparison to a very well-known skin and beauty brand. I can't remember which one. Something of the premium end of L'Oreal and Maybelline and that kind of area. And they were 12.5 years was their average employee turnover. So people are staying there for 12 years.
Yeah.
And like you said, I saw this stat the other day and I was just like, wow, I actually like this brand way more now. I was actually thinking, it piqued my interest to be like, okay, there's clearly something good that's happening there. Why would you want to stay there as a person in that organization? Because I was instantly thinking that it's a great environment, fun to be in, great career progression inside of it. Because that's also one of the things that we've not really touched on today. Is sometimes you can have a really fantastic work environment. You can have a fantastic just you love everything about it. But if you're somebody who wants to go and keep learning more, slightly touches on what we said before, but you want to keep learning more, you are just going to go and leave and find somewhere where you got that great career progression that needs to be laid out in front of you.
Yeah. Knowing your audience, I think that's just in marketing, knowing your audience, your employees are your audience, knowing them and what they need from you is a key in regards to being able to keep them engaged and retain them. And also, is what they're looking for something you've already said you are doing? So then there's something you're not doing right with that, right? Like if you say that you are a culture of learning and development, and yet you're seeing people leave because they can't grow their career. You're seeing people say in your engagement survey or conversations or whatever you hear is that people are they want to grow, but they can't seem to get there. then that's a disconnect on what you're trying to build versus what you actually have.
I think that's a really great place to end today's podcast, as a really nice full circle summary, because those are two very clear and concise actions that if you're in a startup, if you're in any business and you're seeing that you've got employees are leaving, and it's a case of, well, how long have they been there? Like, why are they leaving? What was the reasoning behind it? Is there any, and then it's like, is there one thing that I can put into my business tomorrow that would stop this from happening? Or have I been going for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years as a business? Am I still adhering to the values that I set out that I wanted to be? And if not, why am I not? So again, what can you implement tomorrow to be like, right, it's not been great for the last 6 months, it's not been great for the last 12 months, I've not been doing X, Y, Z, but now almost giving yourself a permission to say, I'm going to start tomorrow by putting 5 of these little things in place. I'm going to start putting calendar reminders every, like you said, 30 days, 60 days, 20, every 6 months, to say, almost do a bit of a HR check on, am I still adhering to the things I set out to do? Because we're all human and we're all going to forget, even as leaders, as managers, as workers. It's so easy to kind of forget about these little details and why we do these little details. Because you might see the bottom line number and go, ooh, we're a bit low on profit. Okay, that's probably a good place to see like why and where can we start analysing it. So I'm gonna bring that to a close for today. Thank you so much for your time, your knowledge, your experience. I think we've really got a really good grasp of how we can get in, making the workplace a better place. And I want to say specifically better place, because I don't want to make it a happier place or a more collaborative place or a competitive place. I just want to say a better place for your organization and tailoring it to the audience that you want to live and thrive around.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're in control and you own the destiny of your business. So just constantly be checking in on it and making the tweaks that you need as you continue your growth journey.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much for having me. And for those that are listening, have a great day.